The city lights of Manhattan flickered against the tinted windows of the black Mercedes as Derek Whitmore stumbled out, adjusting his wrinkled shirt and wiping the faint trace of lipstick from his collar. The echo of Sienna Hale's laughter still rang in his ears, sweet and poisonous, as he climbed the steps toward the penthouse he once bragged about owning with his wife, Claire. It was nearly dawn. The air was cold. But Derek's confidence burned hot after all. Claire never questioned him. She never raised her voice. She never suspected a thing. Or so he believed. He pushed open the door, expecting the familiar scent of Claire's lavender candles, expecting her gentle greeting, expecting breakfast on the marble counter, the way she always did after a long night at work. But the penthouse was silent. Too silent. Something felt wrong. The lights were off, the furniture gone, the frames on the wall gone, every trace of Claire Whitmore's existence gone. On the kitchen island sat a single object, her iPhone, screen glowing like a quiet accusation in the dark. His hand trembled as he tapped the video she left behind. Claire's face appeared pale, tired, eyes swollen from crying, yet strangely calm. "Derek," she whispered, "you don't have to lie anymore. I know where you were." Behind her, 2 packed suitcases stood by the door. "I'm leaving, and I won't look back this time." Quote. Derek cursed under his breath, pacing, searching the empty closets as if she might appear. She wouldn't. Only when he returned to the island did he notice the second item beside the phone, something he was certain hadn't been there last night. A silver access card, embossed with the name of the one man Derek feared more than anyone at Lockhart Capital. Adrian Lockhart, penthouse level. Derek froze, the blood draining from his face, because there was only one reason Claire would have that card now, and that reason was standing right behind him. Claire Whitmore had always been the kind of woman people overlooked. Soft-spoken, gentle, too forgiving for her own good. Born in a small coastal town in Maine, she grew up without parents. Her mother died when she was 13, her father long gone before that. Life never gave her much, but she made something of herself anyway. She worked through college, juggled 2 jobs, earned her degree in interior architecture, and carried herself with a quiet determination that few ever noticed. That was what first attracted Derek to her softness, her kindness, her willingness to believe in him when everyone else saw right through his polished lies. When he lost his job 5 years ago, Claire carried their world on her back, taking freelance projects she could barely survive on. She cooked, she cleaned, she saved every penny. She believed marriage meant sacrifice, even when she was the only one sacrificing. Derek rewarded her devotion by stepping on it. He mocked her, small-town mentality, her modest clothes, the second-hand MacBook she still used for work. He dismissed her ideas, silenced her voice, and treated her success like luck rather than skill. The worst part? Claire accepted it. She told herself love meant patience, that one day Derek would remember who stood beside him when he had nothing. Then came the night everything shattered. The night she opened Derek's laptop to send a work email and found a reservation confirmation for the Park Hyatt 2 guests. A bottle of champagne charged to his card. A silk dress purchased at midnight. The puzzle pieces clicked brutally, painfully, all at once. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She packed. She called a rideshare, grabbed the emergency savings she had stashed away, and disappeared into the freezing Manhattan dawn before Derek could return. She booked a room in a small Brooklyn inn with peeling wallpaper and a flickering hallway light, hugging her knees to her chest as she stared at the ceiling until morning. She wasn't angry, she was numb, hollowed out, like someone had scooped the life from inside her. For the first time in years, she was alone. For the first time, she had no plan, no home, no marriage, no safe place to land. And yet, under the devastation, something small and fierce sparked alive. A whisper she hadn't heard in a long time. "You deserve better." Claire didn't know where she would go next. She just knew she couldn't return to the man who burned her so easily. But fate had already chosen her next step, and it wasn't something she could have predicted in 1,000 lifetimes. Because someone else had been watching her fall and was ready to change everything. The rain had just stopped when Claire stepped out of the Brooklyn Inn, clutching the strap of her worn leather bag. The city felt infinitely larger that morning, colder, louder, almost hostile. Manhattan's skyline glimmered in the distance like a world she never quite fit into. She came here chasing dreams, but the city had swallowed her whole, leaving her with nothing except a broken marriage and a suitcase of clothes. She took the subway to Midtown, where glass towers stabbed at the clouds and people moved with purpose. Claire no longer possessed. She walked past the towering headquarters of Lockhart Capital, a steel and glass fortress rising 47 floors above Park Avenue. She had designed a small portion of its west lobby 3 years earlier, a project she'd been proud of until Derek made her feel like it was insignificant. Now, she stood across the street, watching the revolving doors spin endlessly, a reminder of the world she once touched but never belonged to. Her phone buzzed, a message from the short-term housing department from Lockhart Capital, the department she barely interacted with when she did design consulting work. Temporary unit available. Immediate move-in. Rate waived due to internal credit. Claire frowned. Internal credit? She hadn't worked with them in over a year. Confused but desperate, she followed the instructions to a skyscraper in Chelsea overlooking the Hudson River. The doorman greeted her politely, almost too politely, as if he knew who she was. The elevator ride was silent, except for the soft hum of classical music. When the doors opened, she stepped into a penthouse that looked like something out of Architectural Digest. Floor-to-ceiling windows washed the room in golden morning light. Marble counters, soft gray velvet furniture. A balcony overlooking the entire west side. This wasn't temporary housing. This was luxury no one would give away for free. Claire swallowed, heart pounding. There had to be a mistake. On the kitchen island sat a pristine white envelope with her name written in elegant handwriting. "Welcome, Claire. You're safe here." Just that. No signature. She stepped deeper into the room, trying to quiet the storm in her chest. She should call and ask who arranged this. She should leave before someone accused her of trespassing. But for the first time in hours, she felt warmth. Safety. A place that didn't hurt. As she stepped toward the window to breathe, she didn't notice the security camera in the hallway, blinking softly, alerting the unit's owner that she had arrived earlier than expected. And that owner was already on his way up. Derek Whitmore had always believed he was smarter than everyone else. Smarter than his co-workers. Smarter than the system. Smarter than the woman he married. And for years, he got away with it. At Lockhart Capital, Derek played the role of the charming mid-level manager. He wore tailored shirts he couldn't afford, boasted about deals he never closed, and strutted through the office as if he owned the place. Most people saw right through him, but Derek had a secret weapon: manipulation. He knew exactly how to flatter the right supervisors, how to pressure junior analysts, and how to twist conversations so he always appeared essential. But the cracks were widening. Behind Derek's polished facade was a man drowning in gambling debt, drowning in lies, drowning in the expectations he built around himself. To cope, he clung to the idea that he deserved more power, more money, more admiration. And when ambition met desperation, he found an easy distraction: Sienna Hale. She was 27, fresh out of grad school, breathtakingly confident, with sharp green eyes that missed nothing. Sienna played innocent at first: soft laughs, lingering glances, tiny compliments that fed Derek's starving ego. But beneath her pretty smile was a razor, and Derek was too careless to notice he was bleeding. He mistook her interest for desire. He mistook her ambition for affection. He mistook her game for love. Sienna used him mercilessly: access, information, connections. Every secret he shared, she tucked away like ammunition. Every message he sent her during work hours, she saved. Every risky move he made to impress her, she tracked. And Derek gave her everything. Because in his mind, Sienna was his escape from being ordinary. She made him feel important, desired, powerful. Until the night at the Park Hyatt, when she whispered something that should have terrified him. "You're useful, Derek. Don't lose that. Useful. Not loved. Not valued. Just useful." But Derek was too intoxicated by her attention to understand the danger. He didn't see her calculating eyes when he slipped out at dawn. He didn't see the satisfied smile when she opened his laptop and forwarded confidential files to her burner email. And he didn't hear her voice message sent to someone much higher than him saying, "He's cracking. You can proceed." Derek strutted home with false confidence, imagining more nights with Sienna, more power, more control. Instead, he walked into an empty penthouse, a goodbye video, and a silver access card he had no business seeing. And at that exact moment, in another corner of Manhattan, Sienna Hale was standing in Adrian Lockhart's office, telling him everything. Claire had always hated medical buildings, the sterile scent, the cold metal chairs, the endless hum of fluorescent lights. But today felt heavier than usual, as she sat alone in the waiting room of the Midtown Women's Health Center. Couples surrounded her husbands holding hands, boyfriends rubbing their partners' backs, soft laughter echoing around her. Claire kept her gaze on her lap, fingers gripping the edges of her coat as if that alone could hold her together. She was here for her second ultrasound. Derek was supposed to come. He promised. He swore. He even marked it in his calendar. Yet the chair beside her remained painfully empty. Her phone buzzed. A text from Derek. Big meeting. Can't leave. Handle it. They extowed. Handle it. Like she was an errand. She swallowed the ache and followed the nurse inside. When the doctor confirmed the pregnancy and showed her the faint flicker of a heartbeat on the monitor, Claire felt an overwhelming rush of emotion, love, fear, disbelief, all tangled together. She should be celebrating with her husband, but instead she blinked away tears, alone in a room filled with joy that wasn't hers. After the appointment, she stepped into the cold afternoon air, unsure where to go. Her feet moved on instinct toward a cafe near Park Avenue. She ordered a chamomile tea, sat by the window, and tried to breathe. That was when her phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. Just one photo. Derek. With Sienna? At the Park Hyatt. Arms around each other. Timestamp. Last night. Claire's breath caught. Her fingers went numb. The room spun. Someone reached out, steadying her elbow before she collapsed. A deep voice spoke, calm yet urgent. Miss, are you all right? She looked up. Adrian Lockhart, the CEO she had only ever seen from hallways and company newsletters. Tall, composed, a presence that seemed to still the chaos around him. He recognized her before she could speak. Claire Whitmore, he said quietly, almost like he'd known her far longer than a passing encounter would allow. You shouldn't be alone right now. She tried to protest, but her vision blurred. Her knees buckled. Adrian caught her before she hit the ground, lifting her gently, as if she weighed nothing. He signaled his driver, voice steady but eyes sharp with concern. Take us to Mount Sinai, now. As the car sped away, his phone vibrated in his pocket. A message from his head of security. Sir, she entered your penthouse earlier than expected. Adrian's jaw tightened. Good, he replied. That means she's finally where she needs to be. If you 1-4. The rain had started again by the time Claire arrived at the Chelsea penthouse. Adrian insisted she rest, and though she tried to argue, he didn't give her the chance. You're not going back to that hotel, he said firmly. Not in your condition. He didn't know she was pregnant, not yet, but something in his tone told her he sensed more than she admitted. When the driver opened the door, Claire stepped into the lobby with trembling legs. Her chest felt tight, her breath shallow. Everything that had happened in the last 24 hours washed over her like a wave she couldn't outrun. Derek's betrayal, the ultrasound, the photo, the cruel text message, the way her life had collapsed without warning. She made it into the elevator, pressed PH, and leaned against the wall as her body finally began to shake. She clutched her coat, trying to keep herself together, but the moment the doors opened into the penthouse, the dam inside her broke. She dropped her bag. Her knees hit the cold marble floor, and she cried ugly, uncontrollable sobs that tore straight from the deepest part of her chest. Years of staying silent, years of being gentle, years of forgiving Derek, simply because she believed marriage required endurance. All of it poured out of her in a trembling confession to an empty room. I deserved better, she whispered into her hands. I deserve so much better. She crawled to the couch and curled up, hugging a throw pillow as if it were the only thing keeping her from disappearing. The city lights shimmered through the windows, mocking her with a world that kept moving even as hers had stopped. She didn't hear the elevator return. She didn't hear the quiet footsteps. She only felt the sudden warmth of a coat draped around her shoulders. Claire froze. She didn't look up. She was too ashamed, too broken, but she knew the scent, the quiet presence, the steady breath behind her. Adrian Lockhart lowered himself to the floor beside her, not touching her, not forcing words on her. He simply sat there, matching her silence, anchoring her in a way she hadn't felt in years. After a long moment, his voice came softly. Who hurt you this badly? Her breath caught. She couldn't answer. Not yet. Adrian didn't push. Instead, he said something she never expected. You don't have to explain tonight. But you're not facing this alone, Claire. Not anymore. Her fingers trembled around the pillow. A tear slipped down her cheek. For the first time since everything fell apart, she didn't feel invisible. And then Adrian's phone buzzed and the name flashing on the screen made his expression darken instantly. The soft glow from the ceiling lights cast long shadows across the penthouse as Claire wiped the last of her tears. Adrian stood a few feet away, his back turned as he checked the message that had just come through. His jaw tightened just slightly, but enough for Claire to notice. She sat up slowly. Is something wrong? She asked, her voice still shaky. Adrian exhaled, pocketing his phone. Nothing you need to worry about tonight. But that wasn't true. She saw it in the tension in his shoulders, the flicker of worry behind his composed expression. This wasn't a man easily unsettled. Before she could question him further, Adrian pulled a sleek black folder from a cabinet near the hallway and laid it gently on the coffee table. I didn't plan to show you this tonight, he said, but now, you deserve to know. Claire frowned, confused. He opened the folder. Inside were documents, internal reports from Lockhart Capital, employee files, security logs, communication transcripts, and there, highlighted in red, was a familiar name. Derek Whitmore. Claire's breath caught. Why do you have all this? Adrian didn't sit. He stood tall, composed, but his voice softened in a way she had never heard before. Your husband didn't just cheat on you, Claire. He's been selling internal company data to third parties. Data he accessed through Sienna. He paused, letting the words settle. And I've been investigating him for 3 months. Thank you for watching. The room froze. Claire stared at him, stunned. You knew? About Derek? Yes, Adrian admitted quietly. Not about the affair, not until tonight, but I knew he was involved in something dangerous. Her heart pounded. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't have proof. And because... He hesitated, choosing his words. I didn't want you caught in the crossfire. Claire looked down at the documents. Each page was a betrayal she hadn't known existed. Derek wasn't just unfaithful, he was reckless, criminal, and dragging her into a storm she never asked for. Adrian knelt in front of her, his eyes level with hers. Claire, your name is already on some of the accounts he used. If this becomes public, you will be questioned, and Derek will let you take the fall to save himself. Her chest tightened. I didn't know, Adrian. I didn't know any of this. I know, he said gently. That's why I moved you here, to protect you. Her eyes widened. You arranged the penthouse? Yes. Everything clicked at once. The sudden housing offer, the doorman's unusual respect, the envelope waiting on the counter. Claire's voice trembled. Why would you go this far for me? I'm just... Claire, Adrian interrupted softly. You are not just anything. She opened her mouth, but before she could speak, a shrill alarm blared from Adrian's phone. He checked the alert, his expression darkened. Security notification. Unauthorized access attempt detected at the penthouse entrance. And the camera image showed a face Claire knew all too well. Derek was standing outside the door. The pounding at the penthouse door echoed through the hall like a threat tearing the calm wide open. Claire froze. Adrian's expression hardened instantly, CEO composure sliding into something colder, sharper, almost dangerous. Stay here, he said quietly. But Claire shook her head. Something inside her, a fire long buried under years of humiliation, finally snapped awake. She wasn't the timid woman Derek used to silence. She wasn't the wife who excused every lie. She wasn't the girl who let the world walk over her. Not anymore. She rose from the couch, shoulders squared, tears dried. I'm not hiding, she whispered, not from him. Adrian studied her for a moment, really studied her as if seeing the shift inside her with a mixture of admiration and concern. He unlocked the digital panel and cracked the door open just enough to block Derek's path. Derek tried to push forward, but Adrian didn't so much as flinch. Derek stumbled back like he'd hit a wall. Get out of my way, Derek snapped. That's my wife in there. The word wife felt like poison in Claire's ears. She stepped into Derek's line of sight before Adrian could stop her. We're done, Derek. Derek froze. He wasn't expecting defiance. He wasn't expecting strength. He scanned her face, the calm in her eyes, the steady breath, the absence of fear, and something in him cracked. "You think you can run off and play victim?" Derek hissed. "You owe me an explanation." Claire lifted her chin. "No, I don't owe you anything." Adrian's gaze flicked between them, ready to intervene. But this moment wasn't his to take. It was hers. Derek laughed bitterly. "So you crawl to my boss? Real classy move." Claire didn't flinch. "Maybe if you treated me like a wife, instead of a convenience, I wouldn't have had to walk away." Her voice didn't tremble. It didn't falter. It carried the weight of every wound he ever gave her. Derek's face twisted, jealousy and fear swirling into something frantic. "You're making a mistake, Claire. You won't survive without me." She stepped closer until they were inches apart. "I already survived you." For a moment, Derek looked like he might explode. But then his eyes drifted past her toward Adrian, and something darker settled in his expression. Hatred and fear. A combination that never led anywhere good. Adrian moved subtly, placing himself half in front of Claire. "This conversation is over," he said. But Derek only smiled slowly, chillingly. "You think you're protecting her, Adrian?" he said. "You have no idea what she's gotten herself into." Adrian stiffened. Claire's stomach dropped. Because Derek wasn't threatening violence. He was threatening something far worse. "You should check your company servers," Derek whispered. "Something big is about to crash, and she's tied to all of it." Adrian didn't react, not outwardly. But Claire saw the shift in his eyes. A silent calculation. A tightening of control. A man who had been in boardrooms where billions shifted with a single breath. He stepped forward, closing the door on Derek with deliberate calm. The lock slid into place with a muted click, a final boundary Claire never knew she needed. Derek's muffled voice echoed from the hallway, furious and incoherent, but Adrian didn't acknowledge him. Instead, he turned to Claire, his tone steady but urgent. "Don't listen to him," Adrian said. "Derek's desperate. Desperate men throw bombs hoping one will stick." Claire wrapped her arms around herself. "But what if he wasn't lying? You said my name was tied to some accounts. What if something really is coming?" Adrian paused just long enough for her to know Derek wasn't bluffing entirely. He moved toward the kitchen counter, grabbed his laptop, and opened a series of encrypted dashboards. Streams of numbers and alerts flashed across the screen, lighting his face with cold, digital blue. Claire watched nervously. Adrian rarely showed emotion, but when he did, it was sharp and unmistakable. "Someone attempted to breach our financial archive," he murmured. 5 minutes ago." 5 minutes? Claire whispered. "That's when Derek came up here." Adrian nodded grimly. "He's not smart enough to execute something like this, but he might know who is." "Sienna," Claire breathed. Adrian's jaw tightened. She's been trying to climb her way into executive circles. If she found a way to manipulate Derek into pulling files for her, she might have everything she needs to cause real damage. Going. Claire swallowed hard, memories rushing back. Sienna smiling too easily, lingering too close to Derek, appearing in places she had no reason to be. Guilt twisted inside her. "Adrian, I never saw it. I should have known something was wrong." "You were trying to survive, Claire," Adrian said gently, "not investigate a criminal conspiracy." His voice steadied her, grounded her, made her believe, for a moment, that she wasn't broken. But the danger was real. Adrian clicked a final command. A map of digital logins appeared flashing red around one location. "Someone accessed the files from inside the company," Adrian said quietly, "from one of the internal conference rooms." Claire's eyes widened. "So they're still there?" Adrian nodded. "And if they pull the full package, Lockhart Capital could lose billions. And you?" He hesitated. "Me?" Claire asked. "You'll be listed as the primary login on the breach. Your life, your career, everything could collapse." Her pulse quickened. "What do we do?" Adrian shut the laptop with a decisive thud. "We fight back," he said. "But we need proof before anyone else moves." Claire took a shaky breath. "And where do we get proof?" Adrian turned toward the elevator. Eyes cold, voice low. "From the one person who knows exactly what was stolen." The elevator light pinged softly. Because Sienna Hale had just entered the building, the elevator chimed softly as it climbed toward the penthouse, every ascending floor tightening the knot in Claire's stomach. Adrian stood beside her, composed but alert, his posture calm, his eyes sharp. Claire could feel the shift in him. This wasn't just a CEO handling a crisis. This was a man preparing for a war he'd been anticipating. When the doors slid open onto the executive floor of Lockhart Capital, the atmosphere was electric. The entire floor buzzed, employees whispering, screens flashing, red security alerts, the IT team rushing between glass offices like storm clouds gathering. Claire stayed close to Adrian as they walked through the chaos, her pulse hammering in her chest. Every eye seemed to follow her, some pitying, some suspicious, some hungry for gossip. Adrian led her straight to the main conference room. The moment he opened the door, Claire froze. Sienna Hale was already there. Perfect hair, perfect suit, perfect smirk. She sat like she belonged at the head of the table, twirling a Mont Blanc pen between her fingers as if she had all the time in the world. When she saw Claire, her smile sharpened into a blade. "Well," Sienna said sweetly, "if it isn't the soon-to-be headline." Claire stiffened. Adrian stepped forward. "You're trespassing in an executive-only zone, Miss Hale." Sienna shrugged. "Not for long." She tapped her finger on a USB drive resting on the table. "Everything I need is right here. All the files Derek pulled for me, and all of Claire's logins used to access them." Claire felt the air leave her lungs. "You set me up." Sienna's smile widened. "Oh, honey, I didn't just set you up." She leaned closer. "I built the trap around you." Adrian's voice turned lethal. "You won't leave this building with those files." Sienna raised a brow. "Who's going to stop me? You?" She clicked the USB drive into her laptop. "Too late. I already sent everything to the board. They'll see who the real criminal is." Claire's breath hitched. The board, the entire company, her reputation, her life destroyed with a single upload. But then, the screen flickered. A login prompt appeared. "Access denied, locked by administrative override." Sienna clicked again. Again. Her smug expression cracked. Adrian placed his hand on the table, leaning in just enough to make his presence impossible to ignore. "You forget, Miss Hale," he said quietly. "I own this system." Claire stared at him, stunned. Sienna slammed her laptop shut, face flushing with fury. "This isn't over." Adrian straightened. "No," he said. "It's about to end." The doors behind them opened, and Derek stumbled inside, escorted by building security, wild-eyed, sweating, and holding a folder that changed everything. Derek didn't walk into the conference room. He stumbled, dragged by two security officers who looked more annoyed than concerned. His shirt was wrinkled, his tie half undone, his hair plastered to his forehead with sweat. He looked nothing like the confident, smooth-talking man Claire once married. He looked exposed, small, terrified. "Let me go," Derek barked, struggling as they pushed him forward. "I have evidence. I can fix this." Sienna rolled her eyes, crossing her arms. "Oh, please, you can barely fix your credit score." Derek snapped toward her. "You used me. You used you?" Sienna cut in, laughing softly. "Sweetheart, you handed me the passwords." Claire felt her stomach twist. She'd been married to this man. She'd trusted him. She'd shared a life with him. Now he stood in front of her with a folder shaking in his hand, eyes wild with desperation. Adrian didn't move. He didn't raise his voice. He simply said, "Put the folder on the table." "Well, for." Derek obeyed, not out of respect, but because something in Adrian's tone made refusal impossible. He slid the folder forward with trembling fingers. Adrian opened it. Inside were printed screenshots, transaction logs, email chains, metadata from access points, and something else, pages showing Sienna's digital fingerprints on nearly every confidential transfer. Derek's involvement was real, but minimal. Sloppy, careless, no mastermind. Just a pawn. But then Adrian reached the final page, and the room shifted. A printed transcript. A recorded phone call. Sienna's voice. "Use Claire's credentials. She'll never notice. She's too naive to question it." Claire's breath hitched. Her hands curled into fists, nails digging into her palms. Hearing her name weaponized like that cracked something inside her, something that would never heal the same way again. Sienna's smirk faltered for the first time. "That recording is illegal," she muttered. Adrian looked up, cold and controlled. "No, it was done through a flagged device on company property." He paused. "Yours." Derek turned toward Sienna, shaking with rage and betrayal. "You threw me to the wolves." Sienna scoffed. You volunteered. Security officers moved toward her. Sienna stood abruptly, glaring at Claire with venom dripping from every word. You think you've won? You think running to Adrian makes you safe? Claire lifted her chin. For once, she didn't shrink. It makes me smarter than you. Sienna lunged forward. But before she could reach Claire, 2 officers grabbed her arms, dragging her back from the table. Adrian slid the incriminating folder toward the edge. This goes to the board immediately, he announced. Sienna's eyes went wide. You can't do that. Oh, Adrian said softly. I already have. Does not erase. The doors burst open, and an entire team of federal investigators stepped inside. The conference room erupted into chaos the moment the federal agents stepped inside. Their jackets bore 3 bold letters that made every executive in Lockhart Capital freeze mid-breath. FBI. Sienna tried to twist out of the officer's hold, her perfect hair falling out of place as panic clawed across her face. This is insane. You can't arrest me. You work for no one now. One agent cut in, snapping cuffs around her wrists. Miss Hale, you're being detained for corporate espionage, attempted fraud, and obstruction. The color drained from her cheeks. Derek backed away as if he could disappear into the wall, trembling so violently that even Claire felt a strange flicker of pity, brief, fleeting. He had chosen this path. He had let greed swallow him whole. Meanwhile, Claire stood perfectly still, not hiding behind anyone, not shrinking into her shoulders, not apologizing for simply existing. For the first time in years, she felt steady. Adrian spoke calmly with the agents, handing over the evidence folder. His voice was controlled, authoritative, but every so often his gaze flicked to Claire, checking on her, grounding her. When the agents left with Sienna, the room finally exhaled. Derek tried to follow them, only for security to block him. Sir, one guard said firmly, you're staying here until you answer internal compliance questions. Derek turned to Claire, eyes wide with desperation. You have to help me, he begged. Claire, please, you know I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Claire's heart didn't flinch this time. You meant every lie you told, she said softly. And every choice led you right here. He grabbed her wrist. Claire, you can't just... Adrian was across the room in 2 steps. Remove your hand, he said, each word ice cold. Derek let go immediately, stumbling backward. Claire didn't need protection, but having someone stand beside her, not out of obligation, but out of respect, made her throat tighten. When Derek was escorted away, Adrian finally turned to her. You held your ground, he said quietly. Most people would have broken. I already broke, Claire murmured. Today I rebuilt. Adrian's gaze softened in a way she wasn't prepared for. You deserve better than what life has given you so far, Claire, and you're going to get it. She looked down, overwhelmed not by fear, but by the unfamiliar feeling of hope blooming in her chest. But before she could respond, Adrian's phone buzzed again. He checked it, and his expression shifted not to anger, but to something sharper, protective. He handed her the screen. Claire read the message and felt her stomach drop. It was from the hospital. Her test results were ready, and they requested she return immediately. Due to a critical update regarding her pregnancy, the drive to Mount Sinai Hospital felt like it lasted a lifetime. Claire sat in the back seat of Adrian's car, hands pressed against her stomach, heart racing in uneven beats. The city blurred past the windows, streetlights, honking cars, the endless pulse of Manhattan, but she couldn't feel any of it. She could feel only the sound of her own breath, shaky and thin. Adrian sat beside her, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. He didn't speak. He didn't look away. He stayed close enough that she felt anchored, but far enough to give her space to breathe. When they arrived, he helped her out of the car as if she were made of glass. Inside, a nurse recognized Claire immediately. You're Claire Whitmore? She asked, eyes softening. Yes, Claire whispered. What's wrong? The nurse led them into a consultation room, the overhead light buzzing faintly. A doctor entered with a tablet in hand, her expression professional but concerned. Claire, she began gently, your blood work shows elevated stress hormone levels, and your early ultrasound indicates signs of possible complications. Nothing irreversible yet, but we need to monitor you closely. Claire felt her knees weaken. Adrian slid a hand behind her back, steadying her subtly without making a scene. The doctor continued, stress is dangerous for both you and the baby. You'll need rest, emotional stability, and minimal confrontation. Any severe distress could worsen the condition. Claire nodded, trying to hold her composure, but the words, dangerous for the baby, kept echoing in her mind like a heartbeat out of rhythm. Is the baby okay? She finally asked. For now, yes, the doctor assured her. But we need to reduce your emotional strain immediately. Claire felt a tear fall. She hadn't even had time to celebrate her pregnancy, and already it was slipping through her fingers. She had fought through betrayal, humiliation, isolation, but the thought of losing this baby shattered her completely. Adrian lowered his voice. What does she need? The doctor glanced between them. Calm. Safety. No sudden shocks. No exposure to toxic situations. Adrian nodded, once sharp, decisive, like a man receiving orders he fully intended to carry out. I'll take care of it, he said. Claire turned to him, voice trembling. Adrian, you don't have to. Yes, he interrupted softly. I do. Before she could respond, the consultation room door burst open. Derek, wild-eyed, sweating, defiant. I need to speak to my wife, he growled. The doctor froze. Claire's pulse spiked dangerously. Adrian stepped in front of her instantly, his voice dropping to something lethal. You're done here, Derek. And timed without data loss. But Derek's next words sliced the room in half. You can't keep me away. That baby is mine. The consultation room felt colder than before, as if the walls themselves were bracing for what the doctor was about to say. Claire's heartbeat echoed in her ears, loud and uneven. Adrian stood beside her, not touching her, but close enough that his presence steadied the air around her. The doctor folded her hands. Claire, the test results reveal something important about your pregnancy. Because Drader. Claire's throat tightened. Is the baby okay? Yes, the doctor said quickly. The baby is stable, but there is a complication we need to manage carefully. She slid a file across the table. Your hormone levels and blood panel indicate that the pregnancy is further along than initially estimated. Claire blinked. Further? Along? The doctor nodded. Based on the most recent scan, you're closer to 10 weeks, not 6. Claire felt the world tilt. 10 weeks. 10 weeks was before Derek's final betrayal. Before she even suspected anything. Before she found the photo, her mind spun. Derek wasn't there 10 weeks ago. He barely looked at her. He barely touched her. A cold realization crawled up her spine. The baby might not be Derek's. Her voice cracked. Are you saying the timeline doesn't match? We're not making conclusions, the doctor replied gently, but biologically there is a discrepancy. Claire's hands shook. She wasn't sure if she wanted to cry or laugh or scream or all three. Of all the truths she had expected to face today, this was not one of them. Adrian stepped closer, his voice low, grounding. Claire, look at me. She did. Somehow. There's no shame in this, he said. And no danger. A baby is a blessing, not evidence, not a weapon, not leverage for someone like Derek. Her breath trembled. But if it's not his, then... Adrian didn't blink. Then it's the child of someone far more deserving than Derek ever was. She stared at him, stunned. Did he mean? No. Impossible. But the way his voice softened, the way he had protected her, the way he looked at her, not like she was broken, but like she was precious. Something unspoken passed between them. Before Claire could find words, the doctor continued. For now, Claire, you need peace. No contact with Derek, no stress. I recommend a temporary medical restraining order. Adrian answered before Claire could. It'll be done within the hour. The doctor nodded and stepped out to file paperwork. Claire exhaled shakily. Adrian, everything is changing too fast. He finally allowed himself to touch her, just a light brush of his hand against hers. You're not going through this alone, he said. Not anymore. But peace lasted only seconds. Because at that moment, Adrian's phone buzzed with an urgent alert. A security breach at his penthouse. And the surveillance image attached made Claire's blood run cold. Derek had somehow gotten inside. The security footage was grainy but unmistakable. Derek Whitmore, the man dragged out of a hospital moments earlier, was now inside Adrian's penthouse, ransacking the place like a desperate animal clawing for leverage. Claire felt her breath catch. How did he get in? she whispered. Adrian's jaw tightened. He must have stolen a code before security revoked his access. It's my fault. I should have locked the system sooner. He wasn't angry at Derek. He was angry at himself for letting danger get too close to her again. They rushed back to the car, escorted by 2 security personnel. The drive to the Chelsea Tower was tense, suffocating, every red light torturing Claire's nerves. Adrian kept glancing at her, checking her breathing, checking her posture, checking her everything. He didn't say it aloud, but she could tell he blamed himself for this entire situation. When the car screeched to a stop outside the building, Adrian placed a steadying hand on her arm. "You're staying in the car," he said. Claire shook her head. "No, I'm done letting him control the narrative. I'm facing this." "Claire, I'm stronger than he remembers." Adrian studied her for a moment, then nodded once respectfully. "Fine, but you stay behind me." They entered the penthouse quietly. The living room lights were on, drawers open, papers scattered. Derek's voice echoed down the hallway. "Where is it? Where the hell did she hide it?" Claire's stomach twisted. "What is he looking for?" Adrian frowned. "I don't know." They stepped farther inside. And then Derek appeared, wild-eyed, clutching a stack of Adrian's personal documents. He froze when he saw them. "So," Derek said, breath trembling with anger, "this is where you've been hiding her. If you do into the Basco, put the papers down," Adrian warned. But Derek waved them mockingly. "I know everything now. Claire's medical records, your investigation logs, your encrypted files. You think you can protect her? I can destroy both of you." Claire stepped forward before Adrian could stop her. "What do you want, Derek?" Derek's expression twisted pain, jealousy, obsession, mixing into something unhinged. "I want my life back," he shouted. "You were supposed to be my wife, my family, my everything. And you threw it away. For..." He pointed at Adrian with a shaking hand. "For him." Claire felt something snap inside her, not fear this time, but clarity. "Derek," she said softly, "I didn't choose Adrian over you." His face contorted. "I chose myself." Derek shook, fury consuming him. "You think this is over? You think you're safe?" He reached into his jacket and pulled out something small, metallic, and terrifyingly familiar. A flash drive. "One copy," Derek hissed. "One master file. Everything Sienna stole, and I'm willing to trade it if Claire comes home with me." Adrian stepped forward instantly. "Claire isn't going anywhere." Derek's smile curved into something dark, triumphant. "Oh, then I guess the entire board will enjoy their morning surprise." He raised the flash drive toward the nearest laptop, and the screen beside him suddenly flickered to life, showing a face none of them expected. The screen on the wall blinked twice, then fully illuminated, casting a cold blue glow across the penthouse. Derek froze, flash drive still raised, as a live video feed stabilized. A woman appeared on the screen. Not Sienna. Not a federal agent. Not a board member. It was Harper Quinn, the senior cybersecurity director of Lockhart Capital, one of the sharpest minds in the entire company, known for dismantling multi-million-dollar cyber attacks with nothing but an iPad and her instincts. She looked furious. "Derek Whitmore," Harper said, voice clipped and icy. "Step away from the laptop." Derek blinked. "How did you?" "Your little break-in triggered 8 silent alerts," Harper interrupted. "I've been watching every move you made since you opened Adrian's desk drawer." Claire exhaled, relief mixing with disbelief. Harper Quinn didn't involve herself easily. She didn't offer help unless absolutely necessary. Adrian crossed his arms. "Harper, what did you find?" She typed rapidly visible, even through the camera feed. Enough to put both Derek and Sienna behind bars for a decade. And more importantly, she held up a digital tablet. "I found the original master key." Derek stiffened. "That's impossible." Harper smirked. "Oh, sweetheart, everything you think you know about technology is impossible." Claire felt a flicker of something warm admiration. This woman wasn't just an expert, she was a force. Harper continued. "The file Sienna compiled was modified. Someone added new timestamps, fake metadata, redirect logs, clearly an attempt to frame Claire. But the digital signature behind the first upload?" She held the tablet closer. "It wasn't Claire's, it was yours, Derek." Claire's heart pounded. "You framed me?" she whispered. Derek's face twisted. "It wasn't supposed to go that far." Sienna told me it was just leverage to make Adrian listen to us. To you? Harper scoffed. Please. You were nothing more than a gullible entry point. Sienna used your desperation like a password. Adrian stepped between Derek and Claire, jaw locked. Your games end tonight. Derek shook his head violently. No, you don't understand. I still have the flash drive. Without it, you have nothing. Harper smirked again. That flash drive? It's a decoy. We cloned it 20 minutes ago. Derek's face drained of color. You're lying. No, Harper replied. I'm cleaning up your mess. Everyone a dom. Claire stepped forward, no tremor, no hesitation. You ruined our marriage. You endangered my baby. You tried to destroy my career. And for what, Derek? For someone who never wanted you? He flinched as if her words struck him physically. Adrian reached for Claire's hand, steadying her but not speaking over her. Harper's voice cut in. Security is on their way up. You have 2 minutes, Derek. Either put the flash drive down now. The elevator dinged. Or they'll take it from you by force. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime too gentle for the storm that followed. 4 uniformed security officers stepped out, their footsteps firm and synchronized, filling the penthouse with an authority Derek could no longer escape. He backed away instinctively, gripping the flash drive like a lifeline. No, stay back, he stammered, raising it as if it were a weapon. You don't understand. I still have bargaining power. And Harper's voice echoed through the speakers. You lost bargaining power the second you underestimated Claire. Claire said nothing. She didn't need to. Her silence now carried more weight than every tear she once shed. Adrian motioned for the officers to wait. He stepped forward, calm but iron-edged. Derek, you're at the end of the cliff. Don't throw yourself over it. Derek's laugh cracked, broken, desperate. I already fell the moment she left me. And everyone. Thank you for watching, and described by Ersaz in No Stanny Down. He jabbed a trembling finger toward Claire. She was supposed to stand by me. She was supposed to forgive me like always. Claire inhaled slowly. And you were supposed to love me, not destroy me. Her voice didn't rise. But Derek recoiled as if struck. You framed me, she continued. You used me. You endangered my baby. And you still expect loyalty? I didn't know what Sienna planned, Derek shouted. She lied to me, she promised. She promised you shortcuts, Adrian finished. And you took every single one. Derek's face crumpled, his bravado collapsing into raw, ugly fear. You're taking everything from me. Adrian shook his head. You destroyed everything yourself. A beat of silence. Then Derek lunged. Not at Adrian, not at the guards, but toward the open window behind him, determined to throw the flash drive into the night sky. But Claire stepped forward first. Her voice cut through the room sharp, clear, a command she never knew she possessed. Stop. Derek froze. Not because of the guards, not because of Adrian, but because for the first time ever, Claire's voice held power over him. She took one step, then another, until she stood just inches away. Give it to me, she said quietly. Something inside Derek finally cracked. His hand trembled. His eyes glistened. He placed the flash drive in her palm, and for the first time since this nightmare began, Claire felt the balance finally shift to her side. She turned and handed it to Adrian. No hesitation. Security moved in immediately, gripping Derek's arms as he broke into sudden, panicked resistance. You can't do this, Claire, tell them. Claire. But she didn't look back. She no longer belonged to his chaos. As security pulled him toward the elevator, Harper's voice returned over the speakers. Adrian, Claire, you need to come downstairs. The board is demanding a full briefing. Claire stiffened. Tonight? Now? Yes, Harper replied. They want both of you. Together. Adrian exchanged a look with Claire, one filled with understanding and unspoken promise. Then he offered his hand. Let's finish this. The boardroom on the 42nd floor of Lockhart Capital was nothing short of intimidating. A long obsidian table, panoramic windows revealing Manhattan's glittering skyline. 12 executives seated like judges in a silent court. Claire had seen this room only once, years ago when she delivered design sketches as a junior consultant. She remembered standing here nervously, clutching her portfolio, Derek by her side whispering, "Don't embarrass me." Tonight, she walked in with her head held high. Not as Derek's accessory. Not as a victim, but as a woman who survived. Adrian entered beside her, commanding the room with effortless authority. Conversations stopped instantly. Every gaze shifted to him, then to Claire, some shocked, some curious, some quietly respectful. Harper Quinn was already there, tapping through files on her iPad like a conductor preparing a symphony. She offered Claire a subtle nod. A silent message. You earned your place here. Adrian opened the meeting. We have identified the perpetrators behind the data breach. Evidence confirms that employee Sienna Hale coordinated the espionage, with Derek Whitmore acting as her access point. Claire Whitmore was framed through manipulated credentials. He turned to Claire, inviting her forward. For a moment, Claire hesitated. Then she stepped beside him, her palms steady, her voice stronger than she expected. It wasn't just a breach, she said softly. It was a betrayal, not only of the company, but of my name. And for weeks, I let myself carry shame that didn't belong to me. The room went still. Claire continued. I'm not an analyst or an executive, but I know what dedication looks like. I've rebuilt entire spaces from ruins. I've worked jobs no one noticed. I've supported people who didn't value me. And tonight, I choose something different. A murmur moved through the board. Adrian's eyes softened with unmistakable pride. Harper began projecting evidence, timestamps, metadata, digital trails, building a case so airtight the board members exchanged looks of disbelief and outrage. One of them finally asked, Mrs. Whitmore, what is it you want from us? Claire inhaled slowly. I don't want compensation. I don't want apologies. She glanced at Adrian. I want a chance to rebuild something that matters to me this time. Harper handed Claire an envelope, something Claire had not expected. She opened it. A contract. Not for employment, for partnership. Adrian spoke quietly. You said you wanted to design spaces that changed how people felt. I want Lockhart Tower's full renovation under your vision. As co-lead designer, Claire's eyes widened. This is huge. It's earned, Adrian replied, and overdue. Before Claire could respond, the boardroom doors burst open. A security officer rushed in, breathless. Mr. Lockhart, there's an emergency downstairs. Adrian straightened. What kind of emergency? The officer swallowed hard. It's Derek. He's refusing to leave the building, and he's demanding to see Claire right now. And this time, he wasn't alone. The moment Claire stepped out of the elevator into the ground floor lobby, she knew something was different. The evening crowd had cleared, security had formed a barrier, and the air vibrated with tension. Derek stood in the center of it all. But he wasn't yelling. He wasn't thrashing. He wasn't the wild, desperate man from earlier. He was eerily calm. Too calm? Beside him stood two men, burly, unfamiliar, clearly not employees of Lockhart Capital. They looked like hired muscle, standing too close, radiating menace. Adrian stepped in front of Claire instinctively. Derek, leave now. This is your last warning. Derek's smile was slow, unhinged. Oh, Adrian, you're so used to winning, aren't you? He lifted a folder. I came for closure. Security tensed. Claire felt her pulse spike. Adrian didn't move. Derek opened the folder and scattered its contents across the marble floor. Dozens of printed photos. Claire's medical reports. Her ultrasound. Every private detail he'd stolen. The lobby gasped. Claire felt heat rise behind her eyes, but this time it wasn't shame. It was fury. She stepped around Adrian before he could stop her. Derek, she said softly, why are you doing this? He looked at her with something twisted, part grief, part possession, part madness. Because if I can't have the life we planned, Derek said, voice cracking, I'll destroy the memory of it. Claire swallowed. You didn't lose me because of Adrian. You lost me because you broke everything good in your own hands. Something snapped in Derek. He lunged not to hit her, but to grab her wrist, yank her closer, one last desperate attempt to control her. But he never made it. Security tackled him instantly. He hit the floor with a crack, the two men beside him running before they could be detained. Agents swarmed them. Derek screamed her name as he was handcuffed, tears and rage mixing in his voice. You ruined me, Claire. You did this. Claire stood firm, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. No, Derek, she whispered. You ruined yourself. Adrian moved to her side, his hand gently resting on her back. Within minutes, Derek was dragged out of the building, this time not by private security, but by federal officers waiting outside with a warrant Harper expedited. Corporate espionage, fraud, stalking, violation of a medical protective order. His fate was sealed. The lobby went silent. Adrian turned to Claire. "You're safe now," he said softly. "It's over." And for the first time in years, it truly was. Claire exhaled, her shoulders dropping as the weight finally lifted. She leaned into Adrian not from weakness, but trust. "Thank you," she whispered. He brushed a tear from her cheek. "I told you, you'd never face anything alone again." End quote. Months later, in a quiet garden ceremony overlooking the Hudson River, Claire walked down the aisle, glowing, peaceful, loved. Adrian waited for her with a look that erased every scar Derek ever left. And as he kissed her hand, he whispered, "Welcome to the life you always deserved." The story ends here. The moment Claire stepped out of the elevator into the ground floor lobby, she knew something was different. The evening crowd had cleared, security had formed a barrier, and the air vibrated with tension. Derek stood in the center of it all. But he wasn't yelling. He wasn't thrashing. He wasn't the wild, desperate man from earlier. He was eerily calm. Too calm. Beside him stood two men burly, unfamiliar, clearly not employees of Lockhart Capital. They looked like hired muscle, standing too close, radiating menace. Adrian stepped in front of Claire instinctively. "Derek, leave now. This is your last warning." Derek's smile was slow, unhinged. "Oh, Adrian, you're so used to winning, aren't you?" He lifted a folder. "I came for closure." Security tensed. Claire felt her pulse spike. Adrian didn't move. Derek opened the folder and scattered its contents across the marble floor. Dozens of printed photos. Claire's medical reports. Her ultrasound. Every private detail he'd stolen. The lobby gasped. Claire felt heat rise behind her eyes, but this time it wasn't shame. It was fury. She stepped around Adrian before he could stop her. "Derek," she said softly, "why are you doing this?" He looked at her with something twisted, part grief, part possession, part madness. "Because if I can't have the life we planned," Derek said, voice cracking, "I'll destroy the memory of it." Claire swallowed. "You didn't lose me because of Adrian. You lost me because you broke everything good in your own hands." Something snapped in Derek. He lunged not to hit her, but to grab her wrist, yank her closer, one last desperate attempt to control her. But he never made it. Security tackled him instantly. He hit the floor with a crack, the two men beside him running before they could be detained. Agents swarmed them. Derek screamed her name as he was handcuffed, tears and rage mixing in his voice. "You ruined me, Claire. You did this." "If you force thing..." Claire stood firm, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. "No, Derek," she whispered. "You ruined yourself." Adrian moved to her side, his hand gently resting on her back. Within minutes, Derek was dragged out of the building, this time not by private security, but by federal officers waiting outside with a warrant Harper expedited. Corporate espionage, fraud, stalking, violation of a medical protective order. His fate was sealed. The lobby went silent. Adrian turned to Claire. "You're safe now," he said softly. "It's over." And for the first time in years, it truly was. Claire exhaled, her shoulders dropping as the weight finally lifted. She leaned into Adrian not from weakness, but trust. "Thank you," she whispered. He brushed a tear from her cheek. "I told you, you'd never face anything alone again." Months later, in a quiet garden ceremony overlooking the Hudson River, Claire walked down the aisle, glowing, peaceful, loved. Adrian waited for her with a look that erased every scar Derek ever left. And as he kissed her hand, he whispered, "Welcome to the life you always deserved." The story ends here. So, that's it. Our story has finally come to an end. And if you're still here with us right now, listening to every breath of Claire's journey, then something in this story must have touched your heart in a quiet, personal way. Maybe you saw a piece of yourself in her strength, or in her pain. Maybe you remembered someone you once trusted, or a version of you that deserved more. You know, the Stoics had a simple truth. The obstacle is the way. And Claire lived that. What was meant to break her became the very thing that opened a new life, one built on dignity, peace, and real love. Marcus Aurelius also said, You have power over your mind, not outside events. Claire couldn't control Derek's betrayal, but she chose to control her response. She chose healing. She chose herself. And that's a lesson all of us can carry. So if you're going through something heavy right now, let this story remind you. Pain is not the end. It's the doorway. And hey, if you felt seen in any part of this journey, don't leave quietly. Give this video a like, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe so you can walk with us through more stories that heal, inspire, and remind you of your worth. We're here. And you're not alone.